Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for coming to my channel today. I have a replay for you guys now of a match I played against a Grixis Delver deck. It's something you don't see too much these days in Modern. I guess it's a little bit out of fashion right now. But it's still a very powerful deck and a fun matchup. So looking at the opening hands, easy keep for Merfolk. Looks like I was on the play. Single blue source into AEther Vial is always keepable. I've got two Cursecatchers, Dismember, and two Reejereys. Pretty decent. Not the best hand in the world, but definitely keepable. On the opponent's side of things, we see a lot of one-drops. We got two Lightning Bolts, a Spell Snare, a Thoughtseize, Tasigur, Young Pyromancer. Pretty strong stuff, but only one land. Be interesting to see if the opponent keeps that. Now they are, I guess, even if they miss a land drop, they do keep. They'll get to bolt a creature if I play it. Well, there's AEther Vial. They get to Spell Snare 2-drop. Doesn't look like I have a 2-drop right now. So opponent hits their second land. Beautiful. So they're going to go ahead and crack that. Go straight down to 17 for a tapped Water Grave, untapped Water Grave, casting Thoughtseize. Now, since the hand is pretty redundant, the opponent chose to take Dismember, so that they have a good chance of getting Young Pyromancer online. Failing that, they do have Tasigur as a backup. Alright, so there goes the Dismember. For my turn, I'm going to put AEther Vial up to 1. Didn't hit my land, so I'll play out Cursecatcher, and since the opponent already knows about the other one, I'll play it out right away. Opponent draws another land, so drawing pretty hot. Let's see. So the opponent took 5 on turn 1 with a fetch into shock into Thoughtseize. And now they're taking 3 to fetch another shock. So 8 life for lands in the first, and Thoughtseize in the first 2 turns for the opponent. It goes ahead and gets a Young Pyromancer. AEther Vial will get ticked up to 2. I draw another Spreading Seas. A little bit disappointing, but I can get in with these 2 Cursecatchers. And the opponent's certainly not going to block with the Young Pyromancer. Since this guy can potentially generate so much value off of all of his instants and sorceries. I'll be able to take AEther Vial up to 3 next turn for these Merrow Reejereys, but the opponent knows that I have them. I don't think they don't have any information about my Spreading Seas, but it doesn't really matter since I can't cast them yet. Look, I think the opponent has only drawn land so far this game, and on a 1-land keep, it's pretty excellent. Okay, so he's going to get him with the Young Pyromancer. And then knowing that I have the 2 Reejereys, I think he's going to keep these Lightning Bolts up for a little while. Alright, so let's see if the opponent... I'm going for Spreading Seas here on Steam Vents. He does have Spell Snare and mana to pay for the Cursecatcher if I tried to sacrifice him. But maybe he values the Spell Snare pretty highly, thinks that I'm going to try to resolve some creatures. I did draw an Island Walk Lord off of that Spreading Seas, so things are getting pretty good for me as well. I would have expected with mana up for the opponent to actually Spell Snare that. A little bit strange, I think. So I'll attack with the Cursecatchers, no blocks, and I'm going to make the opponent waste his mana by saving the Reejerey until his end step. If I were to put him out right now, the opponent could have just bolted the Reejerey and untapped with an elemental token. So the opponent took 2 damage from the Cursecatchers, taking another one here from a Polluted Delta. Actually, he's not going to get it untapped. He gets another Steam Vents to replace the other one. And he draws another land. This is his 4th land drawn for the game. But he can't complain because his hand is pretty great. So swings with the Young Pyromancer. I go down to 16. Plays the Ghost Quarter and certainly has enough in the graveyard at this point to get Tasigur onto the battlefield if he chooses to do so. Let's see what he did here. Just went straight to the end step. I'm going to activate AEther Vial to try to bring in Merrow Reejerey. The opponent lets it happen, and he's going to bolt him. He's got plenty of mana to pay for Cursecatcher, so I'm not going to sacrifice those guys now. So Reejerey bites the dust, and the opponent gets an Elemental. I draw into another Island Walk Lord, which is solid, and makes it seem pretty nice that the opponent kept that Spell Snare in hand and let the Spreading Seas resolve last turn. So I'm going to lead with AEther Vial, because then I can get value off of the Reejerey tap or untap. So casting Master of the Pearl Trident, I'm going to go ahead and tap this Elemental, I think. The Island Walk Lord is going to get Spell Snared, so good on the opponent for sitting on that Spell Snare for a little while. The Spell Snare does make a second Elemental, though. These guys being both 2/2s now, I'm going to keep applying pressure to the opponent. And he just takes 4, going down to 3. Very reckless with his life. Makes me feel like this guy might be playing Death Shadow or something. And I think this is the 6th land. The 5th land that the opponent's drawn. Pretty wacky, the way that the game works sometimes. I have a feeling we're going to see Tasigur now. The opponent does only have this one red source currently for this Lightning Bolt, but I would have access to Island Walk. Well, this is an interesting decision. The opponent has to realize that he's vulnerable to Island Walk if I was to play another Island Walk Lord on my next turn, but he's going to choose to main phase a Lightning Bolt here, potentially just to take me off the value that I get from Reejerey triggers. Of course, the opponent is going to get a 3rd Elemental token. The opponent is just attacking with the Pyromancer. He hit me 3 times with him now, so for 6 damage, I'm down at 14. We're going to see the follow-up here. Let's see, putting Watery Grave into play tapped, taps the other one. Here's Tasigur. The opponent moves 5 things to exile. Now, we can see the opponent's probably not going to have an answer here to my Island Walk. So I think that's just going to be how this game ends. And the opponent scooped it up. Yeah, it's interesting sometimes watching these replays. People have very different play styles. That might be a generous way of putting it. It seemed like there were definitely a few mistakes made there. But nothing totally outrageous. Just some poor sequencing. The opponent did make really good use of that Spell Snare. So again, pretty easy keep for me. Two blue sources, 4 creatures, and a Dismember. Pretty excellent. The opponent has 2 islands, no black, no red, but Steel Sabotage. What an interesting card. I have to imagine he brought that in from the sideboard, specifically just to deal with AEther Vial. Like, I don't know if that card is hitting him so hard that he needs to bring in these Steel Sabotages, but apparently he thinks so. Gut Shot can always catch me off guard. Dispel? What instance do I play? A Dismember, I guess. So, very strange cards on the opponent's side of things. Maybe this guy is a little bit new to the game. That would explain some of the awkwardness, sort of rough around the edges. And he chose to keep this hand. Sorry, that's an easy mulligan. He's going to Serum Visions. Maybe that'll smooth things over. Draws a young Pyromancer. Puts a Watery Grave onto the bottom of his library. He's looking for red mana specifically right now. Okay, I'll open with Wanderwine Hub into Cursecatcher for the opponent's turn. He draws a fetch land, so doing pretty well with lands, and did very well with that Serum Visions draw. And I guess the Serum Vision Scry, he must have put that land on top there. So paying 3 to get a Steam Vent, we see young Pyromancer again. Now this guy can get out of hand, so I'm going to want to deal with him. So I'll play this second Cursecatcher. Choose to attack, because if the opponent blocked with a young Pyromancer for whatever reason, I could save my Dismember for later and deal with like a Tasigur. Now this is a little bit of a blowout. If he had the Gut Shot anyway, he could use it. This is not like killing a Lord and suddenly my guys are shrunk down. But it looks like the opponent is just choosing to Gut Shot my guys right now. Actually, no, the reason this is a little bit of a blowout is that the opponent, this is a combo with young Pyromancer. He gets an Elemental off of the young Pyromancer. So I probably should have dismembered the guy before combat. In the future, I guess I'll do that, knowing that they could potentially play Gut Shot. This is new tech, I think. I haven't really seen Delver lists play this card, but it works obviously very well with young Pyromancer. So he's going to kill one of my Cursecatchers and then just trade with the Elemental that he makes. Which is a good play. Very surprising. That's what these Phyrexian spells tend to do. They tend to be very surprising. So unfortunately, I lose both of my Cursecatchers Despite the weird keep, the opponent is actually doing pretty decently. He's going to be able to play out another Young Pyromancer right now, having drawn it. So I draw an AEther Vial, and the opponent totally, again, surprising me with Steel Sabotage. And I give him a yeesh, because that's not a card that people play against Merfolk. But there it is. And there it is doing good work. The opponent's going to get in for 3 here, taking me down from 16 to 13. Puts Ghost Quarter into play and passes the turn. I'm going to play Harbinger here, bouncing the Pyromancer, I believe, just making a bit of a tempo play. Rather than bounce the Elemental, this guy is not much of a threat with all of my Island Walk Lords, and he's just a 1/1. You can see the namesake card finally showing up. It's Delver of Secrets. The opponent's probably also going to drop the Young Pyromancer, and if he gets to use either of these spells, he's going to start making more of these Elementals, but I don't think I'm going to give him any targets for those spells. So here is an Island Walk Lord. He's going to let me swing through, taking the opponent from 15 down to 12. He should be at 12. I think I might remind him here. Yeah, all right. So it goes down to 12, draws a land. Not the best draws here, but he has nobody to blame but himself. I mean, these are pretty poor cards against Merfolk. And I can just keep playing Island Walk Lords, and he's got no answers for it. So here it is. This time I'll be coming for 7 damage with Island Walk. I think the opponent just scooped it up. All right, so that was potentially relatively inexperienced opponent, but playing a deck that I'd like to see more of again in Modern, Grixis Delver. Very fun deck. It's got a lot of variance to it with Delver either flipping or not flipping, but definitely a very strong deck. I think, you know, every now and then it does pretty well in a tournament. And yeah, I like to see it. So please, guys, as always, if you have any comments, feel free to share them. Subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks a lot.